Hey YouTube, it's Sean, Griffin RC Planes. So this is going to be episode number 2 of us programming the AR636 receiver in the Tower Hobbies Uproar version 2. Now, yes, I got a much needed haircut. So in this episode, we're going to make sure we know how to connect to the app using the Bluetooth module. And then we know that we need to reverse a couple of our control surfaces direction. And then we'll adjust the servo travel for the ailerons. We'll get through that in this episode. So let's get started. If you want to win this jet, all you have to do is subscribe, click the notification bell, and the like button. Then check back with me from time to time and see my new videos. Once we get to 1,000, we're going to do a drawing. I had a drawing at 100 and only 30% signed up. With those odds, it could be a 1 in 300 chance. Subscribe. Check me out, guys. Let's run through connecting your AR636 receiver to the Spektrum app in your phone or your tablet using the Bluetooth module. Let's do this one time just to make sure everybody can connect. Something very important is the volume on your phone or your tablet needs to be all the way up. And sometimes there's more than just pressing the volume button. Sometimes there's headphone volumes and Bluetooth volume. Every volume you can find, make sure it's at the very top. Like if I press my volume right here, it gives me another arrow to drop down, and I have 4 different volumes, and we want to make sure they're all at the max. Okay, AS3X programmer app is asking permission to turn on the Bluetooth. Yes, now it's turning on the Bluetooth in my tablet. Now there needs to be some space between the Bluetooth module and the tablet, you know, maybe a couple feet. So I got an extension to put it quite some distance. I want to make sure you guys can see the blinking light. And then we're going to turn the transmitter on. And then I'm going to power the plane, and you want to make sure you have a good charged battery. I was trying this a few times yesterday, and it kept messing up on me, and come to find out my battery pack was like 3.5 volts. So now it's fully charged, 5.5. So I'm turning on the plane. So it's going to start binding. The Bluetooth module is flashing. All right. Up on the top left corner is the Bluetooth symbol on the app. And then it says Horizon BLE. You tap that. And then down at the bottom it has connect. So it's connecting. And now it has the option to disconnect, so that means you're connected. So I'm going to hit the back button, and the Bluetooth icon is highlighted in blue, and it was white before it got connected. And the little circle up here, if it's not connected, it's got a line going through it, like Ghostbusters. You know, no good. But there's no line right now, so we're connected. The Bluetooth is blue and no line. So we are connected. I've spun the plane around so you guys can see the control surfaces. But the previous episode, when we just got our receiver orientation set, we found out that the ailerons were reversed, so was the elevator. So let's double check that right now. If I move the aileron stick to the right aileron should go up, and it doesn't. And the elevator stick, if I pull back, the elevator should go up, and it doesn't. The rudder left, rudder right. The rudder's correct. So we need to reverse the ailerons and the elevator. So we're still connected in our AS3X programmer app. No, we are not connected. Okay, this thing is finicky. It just, this happens. So this is real. It times out. So we're going to power off the plane. Get my battery back over here. Turning off the plane, off the transmitter, transmitter on, airplane on, and now the Bluetooth symbol is blue all by itself, and the little symbol up here no longer has the line going through it. So where we were, the ailerons and the elevator are backwards. So we're going to go to initial setup, and just to verify, look at the right aileron. It should go up, and it doesn't. In the center is surface setup. We're going to tap it, and then each one of the ailerons is in green. We have a Y connector on, so it doesn't matter which one of these we touch. And the first choice we have is to reverse the direction, like so. Now if I move the stick to the right, the aileron goes up. So we have successfully reversed the direction of the aileron. And then I'm going to hit the back button on my tablet, and the elevator is backwards. Surface setup, I'm going to tap on the elevator and then reverse. So now the elevator is correct. So we have our control surfaces all going in the correct direction now. So let's figure out our throws, our rates, dual rates for the aileron. I've got the manual out to the Tower Hobbies Uproar version 2, and these are the recommended throws. And they've got 3 different sections here: low rate, high rate, and then a 3D rate. We're going to be doing the ailerons only. So the low rate is 7/8 of an inch in travel each direction, or 22 millimeters, or 13 degrees. So you can see there's 3 different ways to measure this. The high rate is 1.5 inches, or 38 millimeters, or 22.5 degrees. And then the 3D rate of 2.5 inches, 64 millimeters, or 40 degrees. So we won't worry about the 3D for right now, but let's see what we have without making any changes at all with the servo travel set at 100%. Let's see what we're dealing with. Okay, so we know that we're looking for 3/4 of an inch. We're going to check it without connecting to the app, just to see what we got with the transmitter only. Servo being at 100% travel. 3/4 of an inch for low rates, 1.5 inches for high rates. We got a couple different ways of measuring these throws. You've got a tool like this that works on some planes really well, others it doesn't. This is a ruler on a concave edge here, and you would clamp it on your plane. The other side is in millimeters, and getting it centered is kind of tough depending on how old your tool is or whatever. Right there, roughly, I have the control surface on 0. The width of the tip of the aileron, I've got it centered on the 0, and all the way at the top is 2 inches. So right now, low rates aileron, let's see what it looks like here. Right there is 1/2 inch, so it's got about 5/8 of an inch or so. Let's check the high rates, and not much more on the high rates. Let's go to low, back to high. So that's why I said it's kind of tough to get your measurement right, because it's it's moving around a little bit. So these blue pieces of tape here, I measured the thickness of the wing here, and I put a line in the center of it. And then I went to the very tip of the wing, not counting the aileron, and I found a center point there, and I drew a couple lines like that. Then I drew a line on the middle of the aileron middle as well. So that gives us an idea. If all 3 lines line up, that it is straight, because you can't find a straight edge
like this for the aileron, or like this, because this wing, it needs to be completely in the middle. So that was how I figured out the center of the aileron. Okay, back to measuring. So a ruler is a good way. Get something to stack under the ruler to get it to where, it's at 3 inches exactly, for example. And then you can measure the travel that way. So let's go right here. Well, I'll just kind of hold it for demonstration here. So we're in the low rate setting, and I've got it centered on 3 inches right there. We'll go this way. And right there is about a 1/2 inch. And there's back at our about 5/8 or so. Let's do our high rate. And that's almost 7/8 of an inch. So what we need is more travel. And we can get more travel by mechanically changing it on the servo. And let's try that first. I'm going to flip the plane over so we can see the servo and stuff a little easier.
Before we try a mechanical adjustment, I want to see if we can change the travel in the app and achieve what we need. Because I'll show you in a second here, the mechanical adjustment is, we really don't want to change it unless we have to. But let's just see, I'm connected with the app, and we'll go here to initial setup, and then surface setup, and tap on aileron. Right now the travel's at 100. We've got our measuring device on, and we're just getting kind of close for right now. But you can see in our low rates, we'll call that a 1/2 inch, and the high rates we'll call about 3/4. So if I go to travel, we're tapping on travel. Right now the servos are at 100%. If I change them to, right now it's at 121. Let's see what that does for our low rate. That gives a little bit more. That's pretty close to our 3/4. Let's see what the high rate looks like. And that's about 1 inch. So let's change the servo travel to 130. Back to center right there. So now, low rate, there's our 3/4 of an inch. Let's check the high rate. And that's a little over an inch right there. Let's check it with the ruler. Oh, we'll call this, let me get something to set underneath this. Okay, we'll call the bottom of the aileron is sitting right on top of the 8-inch mark. So let's do low rates. And let's see if I can see it again. About 5/8 to 3/4. Let's see the high rate. Every bit of an inch right there. Let me get one more little piece of something rather to stick underneath. I'm trying to get us. That doesn't really help us. Oh, come on, Sean, come on. No. So let's change our servo travel. Right now it's at 130. Let's change it to 135. And the low rate setting, we're looking for 3/4 of an inch. Sitting around top of 0. Low rate, That's our 3/4 of an inch right there. All right, it split the difference. That's 3/4. And the high rate, it's a little over an inch. Let's change the servo travel to 140. All right, it's set at 140. Servo travel in the app, you drag your finger on this square right here. Low rate, there's our 3/4. High rate, about 1.5 inches. Let's try this again here. There we go. Bring the plane to you. All right, if I don't bump it, it's sitting right on 7 inches, and we're in high rate. So I'd say it's about It's about 1.25 inches right there. Low rate, 3/4. We'll leave it right there. We got 3/4 for the low and 1.25 inches for our high. That's where we're gonna leave it. So we have changed the servo from 100% travel to 140% travel in the app. It has the ability to go to 150%, but we'll leave it at 140 in the app. And I'll show you the mechanical, how it's set up, why we shouldn't have messed with it, and I'm glad we didn't. And then I'll tell you why and how, and make sense why we changed it in the app. The mechanical portion of this servo and this aileron, right now it is in great standings. It can't get really any better than this. We're 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees. From the servo arm to the horn on the aileron and the linkage, everything is just perfect and square. Right, if you can leave it like this and change the servo travel in the programmer app or forward programming, or if you're not using a gyro or safe, then you can change the servo travel in your transmitter. You don't want to change your servo travel in the transmitter when you're using an AR636 receiver, for the reason that you are going to limit the gyro. Okay, we changed the servo travel in the receiver, and we programmed it to where now the brain in the receiver that is controlling the gyro, the AS3X, for stabilization with the wind, and the other side of that, the safe select. The receiver doesn't know that we changed it to 140%. It now knows that 140% is 100% of its capability. If that makes sense. If you limit the travel in your transmitter, then the receiver, let's say, let me paint the canvas. It gets a gust of wind and it blows the wing up, and the receiver says, oh my goodness, I need to counteract that. Well, this gust of wind was so bad, I'm going to have to give it all she's got. I've got to give it 100% of throw in the opposite direction to counteract this gust of wind. Well, the receiver is going to give it, all it's got, 100%. But in your transmitter, you've limited it to, 85%. So, they're not lining up. Now that we've changed the travel in the programmer app and changed it in the receiver, now the receiver is still going to be able to use 100% of its capabilities, but 100% just happens to be 140%. So we haven't damaged or set back the AS3X or the safe select at all. We haven't hurt it.
you know, haven't done anything to limit its capabilities. If you change the servo travel in the transmitter, now you have limited the capabilities. Forward programming, different story. So right now we're in good shape. 90, 90, 90. We could have moved the linkage rod, you know, a hole or two to get more travel, or we could have lowered it a hole or two to get more travel this way, but then we just wouldn't have the 90, 90, 90. So this is great. We were able to change it in the programmer app without having to do a mechanical adjustment.
Well, that's all for this episode. So we have successfully changed the aileron and the elevator servo direction, and we have set our high and low rates for the aileron by increasing the travel in the Spektrum Programmer app. So we have programmed the receiver to move the servo more than what it was doing previously. When you're using a receiver with a gyro, you should always change the amount of servo travel in whatever you're programming it with. You don't want to limit the servo in the transmitter. A lot of people ask me that, why? And I'll give the example. I tell a lot of people, the cruise control in your car. You set it at a certain miles per hour, and you're driving up a hill, and the speed is decreasing. Well, the computer in your car says, hey, I need to give it a little more throttle to keep this speed up. Well, if you put a brick under the gas pedal, the computer's trying to give it gas, and the brick won't allow the pedal to go down. That's the same thing by limiting the travel in your transmitter. So always program it by changing the amount of travel in the app. Forward programming is different. This is for AR636s. Okay, guys. Hey, thank you so much. If you're new to the channel, right here, subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss my next video. And until next time, you'll see me here. Thank you, guys. Hey, I appreciate it. Yep, there it is right there. All right.